Okay, big news in the NFL and first week of college football coming up.
Let's talk football.
All right, well, welcome to Let's Talk Football. I'm your host, John Behrens.
And I'm Joshua Perkins.
Okay, I think you know where I'm going to start off with. Raiders trading Khalil Mack to the Bears.
Well, Khalil Mack wanted a big deal. He wanted an extension, and the Raiders wasn't able to give it to him. So they pretty much had the only option, and that was trading him, and the Bears were able to give him 6 years, $141 million without hesitation.
I mean, it didn't even take half a day before he was signed to an extension.
And Khalil Mack just said the feeling of being wanted. You know, because 6 years, $141 million, that's quarterback money. The only people you see getting that type of money is quarterbacks.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. And then Aaron Donald signed for 6 years.
$135 million.
$135 million. Again, franchise quarterback money.
We're seeing more of an appreciation for defensive powerhouses.
Well, the Bears are definitely building that one up.
The Bears have turned into a formidable contender in the NFC North.
And then the Raiders turn around and trade for A.J. McCarron.
Which I don't think it made sense. And then the Bills want to start Peterman over Josh Allen.
I know. They just announced yesterday that they're going to start Peterman over Josh Allen. I was like, wait, what?
And you're talking about the same guy in his very first start through 5 picks against the LA Chargers. But I digress.
Okay, so I guess let's it's officially game day for week 1 of the NFL. So let's go by division predictions for the AFC East.
For the AFC East? Well, I mean, season starting, and it's where anything can happen. But I have the schedule actually right here in front of me. So how about first game will be Thursday night?
For predictions, who's gonna win it? What team's gonna finish?
AFC East?
So yeah. New England, New York Jets.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about who's gonna win. What game?
No. I guess seeing how we haven't played a game yet, just kind of what your season predictions are for each team.
Well, AFC East, due to the lack of competition, I really think that the New England Patriots are going to win the AFC East again. As far as step back, they're not going to make the Super Bowl this season. I don't see them coming out of the AFC. But I do see them winning the AFC East.
I see them win the AFC East, and I see anything from 10-6 to 12-4 for the Patriots. But again, that's just kind of just them coming out of arguably a weaker division and them being the better team of those 4. I mean, Miami's the cellar dweller again this year. I know Miami fans aren't going to like that, but what has the team done to really build around whatever it is they have?
That's true. I mean, Ryan Tannehill come back from injury, so he has a lot to prove this season coming up.
Yeah, and then Buffalo not really having a quarterback or settled quarterback situation, or I guess they're going to go with Josh Allen at some point, but right now it looks like they got Nathan Peterman.
They don't want to throw Josh Allen out too early, especially going into the regular season. They don't want to throw him out to the Wolves just yet. They want to give Peterman a chance to show what he got since they traded away A.J. McCarron, who they went through hell and back to try and get. And so it's just Coach McDermott's trying to go through his options before having to go to his rookie.
Yeah, it's kind of... That's what I thought they were going to do, but I thought they were going to go the A.J. McCarron route. So that was a bit of a surprise. I guess McCarron he did kind of perform poorly in the preseason, so that's understandable. Giants naming Sam Darnold starter.
Jets.
Yes, that's like I said, the Jets naming Sam Darnold their starter.
And it's just, the Jets, they haven't been excited about a draft pick like Sam Darnold since Joe Namath. Remember Broadway Joe? But Sam Darnold, he's shown a lot of intangibles, and he's garnered a lot of praise from a lot of the veterans in NFL, including guys like Josh Norman, who is one of the toughest defenders in the secondary in the league. And he's garnered a lot of praise from the Jets front office, especially their head coach Todd Bowles. And honestly, when Sam Darnold was made starter, it was no surprise to me. I knew from the time they drafted him that he was going to start. And this is a draft pick that the Jets have been waiting for. And just Sam Darnold, I was very impressed with his preseason. Of course, he has some things to work on, but I feel that it's going to progress with time.
All right. AFC North.
AFC North. My top pick to win AFC North would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Despite, Le'Veon Bell is still holding out, Pittsburgh is remaining very stubborn. You have a lot of players that want to strong arm their way and try and get an extension that they obviously deserve. So their way of strong arming will be holding out of camp and not reporting to the team. And Pittsburgh, they're just at a point to where, they're adamant about not giving him the extension that he deserves. So they rather just him not report and not show up than give him a deal. And they need Le'Veon Bell out there. James Conner is a decent back, but Le'Veon Bell just gives him that edge out there on that field, especially with guys like Antonio Brown, with Big Ben, who's lost weight, he's trimmed down, and he seems poised for another good season.
I know, but you're missing like a third of your offense without Bell out there.
Like Le'Veon Bell is a big part of their arsenal, and now that they gotta go through the season without Ryan Shazier, who suffered, a horrific injury last season against the Cincinnati Bengals, and so this season it looks like he's gonna be sitting out this season until he gets himself back on track.
So you see the Pittsburgh Steelers taking over the Jags.
Well, Jags are in the AFC South.
Oh, so easy to get the teams mixed up. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cincinnati, Baltimore,
Pittsburgh, and Cleveland.
Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to be a surprise team this year. I see. Honestly, I feel 8-8, but if everyone comes out and overperforms, I could see as much as like maybe 10-6.
10-6 would be kind of a stretch, but around that area, there's going to be a huge improvement from the Cleveland Browns. And like I said last time, I'm going to say it again. For those playing against the Cleveland Browns this season, this is not the same Browns team from last season that did not win a single game. This is a much different and a hungrier Browns team that's going to come out there and play with everything they got. They got a lot to prove, and they have a lot of talent to show for it. You got Tyrod Taylor, Jarvis Landry. You got Baker Mayfield, of course. You got Myles Garrett on D-line. You got Jabril Peppers. They got Devin Ward, who they got in the draft this season. They also got Josh Gordon, who finally returned back to the team. So, he's
been out.
He's been. Yeah, he's been out, but I still got a lot of faith in Josh Gordon. He's a pretty good receiver, and I feel that once he steps on that field, he's going to shine out there for the Browns.
Okay, AFC South. So
AFC South, I would see.
That's Jacksonville.
It's a toss-up. I say a toss-up between Jacksonville and Houston. For Houston, if everybody stays healthy, Houston's going to be a contender in the AFC South.
Right. It's unfortunate, but that is kind of Houston seems like, can Deshaun stay healthy?
Deshaun Watson.
He tore his ACL. It was ACL, right?
Yes.
In practice, not a game. Practice.
That's what shocked me the most. I'm just like, because at the time that he got hurt, he was probably my front runner for Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah.
He was my front runner for
19 touchdowns in 5 games or whatever it was.
He had an amazing game against Tennessee at home. They went to Seattle, almost beat the Seahawks, and he shined out there. Had a pretty good game against the New England Patriots. It's just not with Jacksonville. Here's where Jacksonville has the edge: defense. All around. You got Blake Bortles coming back. You got Leonard Fournette, and Leonard Fournette had a dynamic season last season. I see ultimately Jacksonville, but Houston's going to give them a run for their money.
Yeah. Even with the return of Andrew Luck, I don't see the Colts really challenging at this point. It's too much lack of talent, really.
But the Colts, they're going to take a couple steps up this season. I mean, they're going to win a few more games. They're going to improve, but I don't see them contending in the AFC South.
No. And the West just seems like a toss up.
I would say the toss up. They lost. Okay, the Raiders lost Khalil Mack, who was a huge part of their defense. At once, I had Oakland taking over, being top of the AFC West. Now I'm kind of looking more towards the LA Chargers. LA Chargers, you got Phil Rivers coming back. You got Melvin Gordon at running back, Keenan Allen. They just re-signed Antonio Gates, who is probably one of the best tight ends in the history of the NFL.
Well, he did take a step off, though.
He did. I mean, he's getting older, but he does add that much-needed dimension to their offense. He's that much-needed added target for San Diego. On defense, you got Derwin James, who they got from Florida State. You got Melvin Ingram. I mean, LA Chargers, they're starting to come up with a team to surround Phillip Rivers, who is their franchise quarterback. And Phillip Rivers, even in San Diego and even in LA's worst seasons, Phillip Rivers is still putting up big numbers. It's just you got to surround him with a team, and that's what they're doing. They are on the brink of something big this season. And so don't be surprised if they, I got Oakland and Kansas City in the top spots in the AFC West, but don't be surprised if LA makes a case for themselves. And with Denver, I mean.
Okay, so playoff pitcher out of the AFC, and who's your pick for the to rep it?
To rep the AFC, that's a hard one due to New England. They're going to be taking a couple steps back. Pittsburgh taking a couple steps back. I mean, it would be hard to say, but I gotta go ultimately with Jacksonville. I see them repping the AFC. It's a bold prediction, but Jacksonville, who came very close to beating the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game last season, I got Jacksonville.
Yeah, my pick is Jacksonville too. I just think their defense is that good, and it does look like they've added some pieces to try to help Bortles out some. Obviously, the $54 or $5 million contract extension says that Bortles is their guy for now. Yeah. But they're obviously going to win defense first.
Oh, most definitely.
Like you said, Patriots just going to take a step back. Too much there. Too many losses in the offseason. Too much distractions and chaos right now. The whole semi-revolt against Bill Belichick.
It's just there's not a whole lot of chemistry in that locker room. And, you got to have that chemistry off the field before you can really have it on the field,
and when you got Gronkowski mulling retirement, and then now who is Brady gonna pass to for the first 4 games outside of Gronkowski, with Edelman out with 4-game suspension?
Amendola traded to the Miami Dolphins. It's just
Cooks was traded to the Rams. Amendola straight up left, and then Deion Lewis,
he's now with Tennessee.
Mike
Gillislee is now with the Saints. And so it's like, now who you got?
I don't know. But NFC East.
NFC East, I would say, would be a toss-up between the Redskins and the Eagles.
Really?
Well, the reason why I say the Redskins is because you got Alex Smith. And, you got Alex Smith, you automatically have a case. Mainly, I would say the Eagles. At the end of the day, I would say the Eagles. They got Nick Foles starting week 1, and just like they're that team. Like, they lost their starting quarterback to injury. Nick Foles he showed what he's capable of last season, but he's gonna be without Alshon Jeffrey for the first few games. Because Alshon Jeffrey, I believe for the first game or two, he had surgery after playing on an injury last season. He doesn't have Trey Burton anymore. He doesn't have LeGarrette Blount. And so we finally get to see how good Nick Foles actually is this season coming up.
Yeah. My pick, Honestly, I just have to go with the Eagles for that division. I don't think Dallas is going to do much. While I do see improvement in New York, not playoff improvement.
And then I'm gonna see a lot of improvement out of the Washington Redskins. They got Alex Smith at quarterback, and Alex Smith. I mean, he was with a young Niners team that was led by Coach Harbaugh, and I mean, I see a lot of improvement coming out. And not only that, he's gonna be reunited with Vernon Davis, who was probably his number one target in San Francisco at the time that he was playing.
Right. I see Minnesota taking the North.
And no discredit to Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, he lost a few people. But he also got Jimmy Graham, in which they're going to have some fun together out there.
I know, but Minnesota has the defense.
And that's what it ultimately comes down to. Chicago's going to be making themselves a case. I definitely see Chicago winning a few tough games this season, especially I could see them taking one out there in Lambeau probably. I could see them taking one at home against Minnesota.
Chicago will definitely be a player this year.
Most definitely.
The defense is.
And it's like, it's kind of like hard to say. There's gonna be like some tough decisions as far as, there's gonna be some tough scenarios towards the end of the season about who gets in the playoffs and who's gonna be snubbed out. There's gonna be a lot of toughness, and the NFC has really turned into the more dominant conference. Because for a while it's just been the AFC. Now it's the NFC that's getting ready to like dominate.
Yeah, and then I have the Saints coming out of the South.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of analysts and experts out there that are really just don't see the Saints improving on their 11-5 record. In fact, some see them going like 9-7.
In which all the off-season acquisitions, I mean, I don't understand why you would see them go 9-7. You look at their defense, Demario Davis, who they got from the New York Jets, who's an all-pro linebacker. You got Craig Robertson, who's a field general on defense. You got Manti Te'o coming back. You got A.J. Klein back. You got Patrick Robinson, who they acquired from the Philadelphia Eagles, who's evolved his game since first going to Philadelphia. You got Kurt Coleman, who's a veteran safety who adds that veteran leadership to the secondary. You got Marshawn Lattimore, defensive rookie of the year last season. You got Ken Crawley, who can take on probably just anybody. You got Marcus Williams, who had 4 picks last season as a rookie. Defensive line, you got Marcus Davenport. You got Cam Jordan, who was a Pro Bowler last season. Sheldon Rankins on the defensive line.
They're stacked.
This defense is completely stacked. And this was a defense that finished top 10 last season in the league, who could possibly finish top 5 in the league this season if you look how stacked they are. Mm-hmm. Offensive line, I mean, I don't have to go in offense. If I go in offense, we're going to be here all day. But yeah. I can see the Saints going, like, their ceiling, honestly, would be 14-2. Their ceiling. Their floor is about maybe 12-4, maybe 11-5.
That's if they come out and poop in a few games.
Exactly. I mean, and you have teams, you have bad days, you have good days. But I see the Saints. I see the Saints team keeping their feet on the gas pedal, and they're gonna keep driving towards trying to get to the Super Bowl. They want one. They want another. They want to give Drew Brees another ring before he leaves. No debate. Rams out of the West. That's a no-brainer. I mean, Seattle, their team has
taken a step back.
Arizona's going to improve, but I don't see them competing with the Rams in the NFC West. San Francisco's going to have some improvement, but I don't see them competing in the NFC West. The order of March as far as the NFC West, I got the Rams at 1, got the Niners at 2, Cardinals at 3, Seahawks at 4.
And finally, rep out of the NFC, Saints or Vikings?
Saints. I see the Saints getting vengeance on Minnesota.
If the Saints can capture the number 1, yeah. If the Vikings take number 1, it'll be hard.
It's definitely going to be hard because the road to Super Bowl is going to go through U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. That's only if the Vikings can win the divisional game, whoever faces them in the divisional round. But if the Saints go number 1, I mean, last time the road to Super Bowl for the NFC went through the Dome, the Saints ended up winning the whole thing. So,
wouldn't that be something, a rematch of the Vikings and the Saints for
NFC title?
NFC title.
in the Superdome, that's just 2009 all over again.
It is. All right, so we have week 1 of college football.
College football, and some good enough to come out of it.
You know, no real. Oh, it's like, I don't want to say no real surprises, but few surprises. However, those surprises were pretty big. Appalachian State and Utah State almost pulling up the upsets.
You know, like Appalachian State actually took Penn State to overtime. Penn State was outscored 28-14 in the fourth quarter. Then you have Michigan State, you know, coming within a touchdown and being upset by Utah State.
Yeah.
Also, you have Maryland, who had a trying offseason. They lost one of their players, died, Jordan McNair, and they basically came out first play of the game. They put 10 players out there as a way to honor him, and this was an a team filled with a lot of emotion. They pulled off the upset over Texas for the second straight year in a row.
Yeah, I was just about to say they actually beat Texas last year. Not a good start for the second year in a row for Mike Herman's team.
Exactly. I mean,
or was it Tom Herman?
Tom
Herman. I don't know what it is with me and names.
Some teams I'm going to be looking at will be West Virginia. Their quarterback Will Greer had an outstanding game against Tennessee. Not a good start for Jeremy Pruitt in his time at the helm out there in Knoxville. Another team I'm going to be taking a look at would be Notre Dame, who had a pretty good defensive win. Their defense really came up big against Michigan, who was led by Shea Patterson in his debut against the Michigan Wolverines.
Not a good day for Washington. They left a lot out there to be desired, if you ask me. Good defensive game from them, but their offense has a lot of work to do.
It was a physical battle between the Huskies and the Tigers of Auburn in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. But both teams, I mean, as far as that game is concerned, it doesn't ruin Washington's chances at a playoff push.
No.
Washington can still get in the race due to the conference that they're in.
If they can come out and run the Pac-12, yeah, they definitely can climb back. But not a typical good start for a Chris Peterson team.
Typically, but I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I feel they did a lot better against Auburn than I thought they would, due to Auburn being more physical and being a lot stronger. And Auburn, you know, SEC teams have that knack to be able to manhandle their opponents, especially coming from another conference. And so, I mean, you look at Washington the year they were in the 14 playoff, they actually held their own against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama actually had a hard time moving the ball up and down the field.
The Tide broke it open late.
They broke it open very late, but I mean, that game actually costed Lane Kiffin his job. That was Lane Kiffin's probably his last game with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Another game, of course, LSU.
Yeah, that just
overpowering Miami.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Even
you're up 30-3 going into the fourth, and then two late scores by Miami make it look a little bit
more humane.
Humane, but Tigers definitely left some touchdowns on the field. But yeah, Joe Burrow coming out completing his first 3 passes as LSU's starting quarterback. Tigers came into that game with a lot of questions on offense. Still some significant room for improvement, but I mean, we don't know how that offense is going to do against like an Alabama or even an Auburn, which is coming up in just 2 weeks.
And so they're going against the Southeastern Lions out of the Southland Conference this Saturday, and it's going to give the Tigers a chance to really knock the cobwebs off, get all the butterflies out, and be able to run your game plan. And that way, I mean, you can see where you need to perfect everything and where you need to improve. This is where you let the stats fly, you load up the scoreboard, load up the stat sheet, because it's not going to be the same against Auburn. And then they got to go to War Eagle and go against the Auburn Tigers this season, which is going to be Joe Burrow's probably his first time in a much more hostile environment.
Yeah, the only game really of note for this week 1, which was more or less a typical week 1. Not a good start for FSU.
Florida State, they basically had their will taken from them against Virginia Tech. Florida State, they actually had, some big plays, but Virginia Tech made a couple of plays that saved touchdowns. 24-3 last night, Virginia Tech, but it could have been maybe 24-17, or it could have been maybe Florida State's favor. But DeAndre Francois, his first game back from injury after getting hurt against Alabama week 1 last season, and he throws 3 picks. With Virginia Tech, they looking poised to maybe trying to take over the ACC, but we all know the team to beat in the ACC are the Clemson Tigers. But Josh Jackson was 16 for 26, 207 yards and 2 touchdowns, while DeAndre Francois was 22 of 35 for 233 yards and 3 picks. And so it's not a good debut for Willie Taggart last night, and definitely a sour night for a bunch of Seminole fans last night.
Yeah. Speaking of sour notes for fans, watching the Miami game.
Yeah, I was just seeing
those
a bunch
Canes
of
fans with their turnover chains.
And you might as well just remove one of the half the U, and just wear it like that.
They came into that game talking about how Miami had 31, 32 turnovers last year, and the Tigers only had something like 18. And then Tigers win that battle, 3-0? At least two.
It was 2. Malik Rozier threw 2 picks, including a pick 6 towards the end of the first half. Defense looked amazing. The front 7 would just overpower them as far as their run game, getting to the quarterback. I saw a lot of pressure on Malik Rozier. They didn't get to the quarterback as much as we would have liked them to, but they were able to get into the backfield, especially with guys like Rashard Lawrence getting back there, Caleb Chasen, who is a tenacious linebacker.
It's the thing about Chasen. It was like there's no idea what that knee injury is.
Well, he was actually back on the field after, so I think he's gonna be all right. Of course, he's gonna have to probably get looked at by team officials, make sure he's okay going forward. That's a guy we cannot afford to lose in the linebacker core. Of course, our secondary is gonna be pretty good this season, even though there's a lot left to be desired. They gave up too many big plays against Miami this past Sunday night. But you look at the secondary, you got Greedy Williams, who's a first-round prospect. You got Grant Delpit, John Bell IV. And you also got Christian Fulton, number 22. He was a guy who was suspended over, he was allegedly tampering the drug test, but it was already said that he had passed the drug test. And due to Urban Meyer getting that 3-game suspension, his family didn't see a lot of fair play in the situation if you compare the situations, and so they were able to get him back on that field.
So yeah, I don't think they came out with new rankings yet, so nothing there in that category right now, but we'll see.
And speaking of Urban Meyer, Ohio State, their first game without him, they knocked off Oregon State 77-31. In which I thought that was a very impressive way to start things off. Only 2 more games without Urban Meyer, so.
But still, you allowed 31 points to Oregon State.
But they made up for it by putting up 77.
They get that, but.
And their next game, they're going against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and so that should be another.
Dangerous.
That's another cakewalk for Ohio State. I can just say that right now.
Yeah, I was being facetious. Any big games next week?
For week 2, some games.
Week 2 is kind of usually lackluster for college football.
The game I'm going to keep my eye on. We have 2 big games. 3 games I'm going to keep my eye on. The first one will be Georgia heading to play against South Carolina. South Carolina has improved over the past couple of seasons, and I can honestly see South Carolina capable of pulling off an upset against Georgia. They're going to South Carolina, which is going to be a hostile environment. Don't be surprised if South Carolina pulls off an upset. It's an SEC matchup that I would love to see. Also, another one would be USC going against Stanford.
Oh, yeah.
And I also have an upset alert as Michigan State heads to Arizona State to take on Herm Edwards and the Sun Devils. The Sun Devils looked impressive against UTSA this past weekend. And so I'm looking forward to that game. I have my upset alert on that.
it was Penn State.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Going against Arizona State.
Well, I mean, after nearly losing to Utah State, I could see what that would be upset with. Yeah, and Penn State's another one. Is like, okay, you almost lost to the upset Kings, arguably. We all remember the 07 game in Michigan versus Appalachian State, that last second field goal block.
And like it was crazy. If you want to see 100,000 people go silent at the same time, just look at that play.
All right, well, it should be very exciting now that both the NFL and college will be in full swing at the end of the week, the end of the weekend.
Also, one more note, Penn State will be heading to Pitt, and we're talking about the same Pitt team that upset Miami last season. So keep your eyes out for that game. That game will be on ABC at 7 p.m. Central, so keep your eyes out for that game.
That's a good one. This has been Let's Talk Football. I'm your host, John Barron.
And I'm Joshua Perkins, signing out.
Let's talk football.